You've decided to finally put yourself out there and start that podcast. Go live on Instagram or open up a Clubhouse room. And one of the things you'd like to focus on is interviewing guests. Excellent! So let's teach you some of the skills you need to get the most out of your interview. I'm Louise Poole.
And I'm Andy Leroy with part 1 of a 2-part episode on interviewing. This part is for the interviewer, and we're going to give you the insights to help elevate you as an expert in your field.
Elevating experts. Interview-style podcasts are one of the fastest growing formats, and for good reason.
It's interesting to have a chat with someone who has incredible insights or shares your common values and create something fun together. But I'm also sure you've heard some podcasts where the interviews aren't all that good. And we want to make sure that yours are. So here are some ways that you can improve your performance as an interviewer.
You know my motto, Andy? Plan, plan, plan. And it makes the difference between a good interviewer and a bad interviewer. Thoroughly researching your subject or topic is absolutely key to having a great interview.
Not only does it give you that knowledge base to start with, but when your guest can see that you've bothered to take the time to learn more about them and their subject matter, they're more likely to open up and connect with you.
You'll want to prepare some talking points and questions around the research that you've conducted, but one of the other key components of becoming an excellent interviewer is actively listening to what your talent is saying.
It's good to have those little notes written down in front of you, but don't be so rigid in needing to ask you pre-written questions that you actually miss those really good opportunities to expand on what your talent is saying.
Yeah, you'll get better at this as time goes on. When you first start out interviewing people, it can be a little hard because you're so focused on not messing up that often you'll focus only on what you're going to say next instead of listening to what the guest is actually saying.
But it's going to get easier as time goes on. You'll gain more confidence, and again, that comes from the research that you've done prior. Eventually, you won't need to write out full questions. You'll just need to write a couple of talking points. And because you've done that research, you'll hold that information in your head and be able to have a conversation with your guests instead.
Another tip for becoming a better interviewer: when you're doing that research about your guest, you want to also listen to other conversations that they might have had with interviewers. Not so you can copy their questions, but so that you can anticipate the things that they might say to you. If you want an interview that sounds different from what everybody else is doing, then you need to ask questions that not everybody else has.
It comes down to planning again. By anticipating how they might answer a question, you could further enhance that point so that you get something unique out of the conversation for your audience.
And the last tip for this episode, although there are so many more tips that we could go over and probably will in future episodes, is to make sure that your response to the guest matches the tone of the interview.
If someone's just told you a very funny story, the next question you ask is not the one about the most traumatic incident of their life. And vice versa.
An example, Andy, do you remember that interview we listened to recently while researching one of our guests for Reframe of Mind?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where the guest was talking about the really serious subject of sick children.
Yes, and it was clear the interviewer wasn't really listening because they started laughing at something in the background. Even if it was unintentional, that was definitely not the right response to have at the time. And that's the kind of thing that will damage the relationship you have not only with your guest, but also with your listeners.
So let's recap some of the ways that you can get the most out of your interview from an interviewer perspective.
Firstly, you need to plan.
Do your research thoroughly.
And you need to actively listen to what your talent is saying.
Don't miss an opportunity for a great follow-up question because you aren't paying attention.
Lastly, make sure that you're responding in a way that matches the tone of the interview.
And don't get caught up on what you think you should ask. Let that conversation flow. Be prepared to respond to conversation points, and this could include expanding with anecdotes from your own life to build that rapport.
We'll pop these hints and tips into our show notes, as we always do, but next time on Elevating Experts, Part 2 on how to get the most out of your interview from the interviewee's perspective.
Elevating Experts with Welcome Change Media, giving you the insights that elevate you as an expert in your field.
Check our show notes and website for more information on today's topic.
Hit subscribe and share with your friends and colleagues so we can all rise together.
For a tailored solution to help with your branding goals, contact us today via welcomechangemedia.com.au.
Elevating Experts is a Welcome Change Media production.